Hi everyone, thanks for joining in. I'm excited to have Lowe joining me today. Thanks, Ali, for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me, Jackie. It's awesome to be here.
So, Ali's been a journalist for 20 years. She's written for bridal magazines, parenting titles, websites, and newspapers in London and then Australia after she moved to Sydney 14 years ago on a trip that was meant to last a year. She was features editor at OK in London, where she memorably stalked celebrities in Elton John's garden at his annual white tie and tiara ball. Ali lives in the northern beaches of Sydney with her husband and three young children, and her latest book is The Trivia Night. I don't know. We can see yours in the back there, and I've got mine holding up here. And just want to say to people that thanks to Hatchet, if you ask a question during the Facebook Live, you'll have a chance to win a copy of the Trivia Night. So if you do have a question for Ali, please type it in comments and I'll read it out. So, Ali, just wondering if you want to start off by telling us a bit about the Trivia Night.
Yeah, I'd love to. So, The Trivia Night is a book about a group of parents who, at a primary school in a little fictional town called Darley Heights, and they take the reckless decision at the Trivia Night at a school fundraiser to swing for one night only. And the book, that kind of happens near to the front of the book, and the rest of the book explains the fallout in terms of marriages and friendships and relationships, basically.
And
And in the end, it turns fatal.
yeah, I'm really interested to know what was your first idea for this book, and is it something that you'd heard of happening or?
Yeah, well, the first idea was literally, I'm going to write a book about people at a primary school swinging. So basically, I went for dinner with a good girlfriend of mine, and the conversation turned to her primary school, which is fairly near mine, but shall remain nameless. And she said that there were a group of parents that were rumoured to partner swap, and this would perhaps happen at school nights out, might happen on a camping trip, but it was a regular thing.
Oh,
and
wow.
I remember
Yeah.
my jaw kind of dropping to the ground and thinking, oh my goodness, wow, that is the most incredible concept for a novel. I just kept thinking, how would you face someone on Monday at the school gates if that had happened? There was so much scope for drama within this situation. What if someone fell pregnant? What if someone fell in love? What if someone, and it was unrequited, or it was requited, what if someone was was murdered or something like that. I just kind of felt like it had so much scope for a kind of snowball effect, and I decided to run with it when I began my writing a novel course at Faber shortly after.
And what about reader feedback? Are you getting people who are have said that they've had similar situations, or people who are disgusted in what you've written about in the book, or?
Well, when I first started telling people that this is what I was writing about, it was amazing the amount of people who said to me, oh my goodness, I think there's a group of swingers at our school. There's a group of parents who get it on at various events. And I just thought to myself, wow, maybe I'm onto something here. The feedback's been good. A lot of people have said, oh, I really love that idea. And yes, a surprising amount of people have said, yeah, I've heard of that, or, and I had no idea. I didn't realize there was this sort of big underbelly of swinging around the parts I live in. But, apparently there are.
And we've got a few people watching, which is great. So just reminding you, if you're watching, please type a question to Ali and you'll have a chance to win a copy of the Trivia Night. Kelly wonders which one is your favourite character?
Now my favorite character, I think, would have to be Zoe. So the book is told from the point of view of three women, but it really focuses on four or five actually. But three women narrate. There's Zoe, who is married to Miles and who is struggling with fertility issues. She is writing to her sister via email. And then there's Alice, who is sort of very buttoned up, works on the P&C, very sort of everything has to be perfect. And then there's Amanda, who's you know, kind of sailing through life, but has a few inner demons, and you know, perhaps doesn't always get things right. And they each have their own sort of problems. As the novel progresses, you realise that each of these women has their own perhaps issues or things that they're dealing with. And for me, Zoe was the character that I really identified with the most. You know, as you go through the book, you realise that Zoe's grappling with grief because her, you know, she's struggling to get pregnant, but there's another kind of grief involved with Zoe as well. And that was something that I had gone through fairly recently in my, well, when I wrote the book 2 years ago, I'd gone through grief, and so I found that quite not easy to write, but it was the character that I identified most with. Those chapters came the easiest, whereas the other two women, the very buttoned up Alice and Amanda, who was quite sort of loose, they were the most distant from my own personality, I suppose. So those were the ones I struggled with, and I suppose, you know, to that end, they were the ones that I probably didn't identify with as much. And I also thought Zoe had a bit more fun in her as well. And perhaps she was the most remorseful about the whole situation as well, which, you know, and everything, well, actually, I can't give away what happens, but yes, Zoe was my favourite. I'll stick with that.
Yeah. And Kelly also said, was it hard writing the different styles for each of the characters' chapters?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It was quite hard. As I said, Zoe's was probably the easiest because I'm very close to my sister, and Zoe's writing to her sister. So I kind of almost imagined I was writing to my own sister. And Zoe's chapters are quite sort of, you know, she doesn't use you know, sometimes her grammar's a bit slack, and sometimes she doesn't use quote marks when she's talking, you know, he said this, and everything's a bit of a stream of consciousness. So he said this, and then I said this, and then he did this, and it's kind of designed to sound like an email would to a sibling. So that again was probably the easiest because I imagined myself doing the same. The Alice was actually really tricky because she's very buttoned up, and as you realise in the novel, she's kind of lying to the reader, and she's sort of lying to herself about certain things. She's talking to a psychologist. So I kind of had to write her as if she's denying everything to herself and to her psychologist. So that was actually quite tricky to write. So I'd say in order of trickiness, I'd say she was the hardest, followed by Amanda, and then Zoe.
Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit about how you got your first book published and how hard or easy that was for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started writing the Trivia Night in, I think it was March 2019. So I started the Faber Academy Writing a Novel course. That went on for 3 months, and then there was a 2-month break, and then there was another 3 months after that, and I wrote the novel on that course, the bare bones of it. And then I sort of had mentoring with the course tutor Catherine Heyman after that for 3 months. And during that time, so I had the bare bones written during the course, and then after that I fleshed it out with editing and mentoring. And you know, and then I had what was the sort of first draft of the novel. And as part of the Faber course, we were requested to take part in to put a chapter of our work in the anthology, the Faber anthology, and that went out across the world. It went to London, and you know, agents in London and agents in Sydney. And my London agent sent me an email and said, "Oh, I love this first chapter that you've put in the anthology. Would you send me your manuscript when it's ready?" So I sent it across to Marina as soon as it was ready, and I sent it on a Friday night, and on Saturday morning, I woke up and there was an email from Marina saying, "I've been reading your book all night," and during my night, her day, and she said I couldn't put it down. I absolutely loved it. So yeah, that was how I got my representation, and then that was the beginning of 2020. And the book went on submission right at the start of the COVID lockdown. So that was a bit tricky. I was thinking, oh my goodness, what's going to come of this? It's, you know, the whole world's stopping. But actually, I was very fortunate. It sold a few weeks later to Hodder. And the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah. And you'd been writing like for magazines and that for quite a while. Is writing a novel something that you'd always wanted to do, or how did you?
Yeah, I had. I'd written numerous first chapters, you know, here, there, and everywhere. I remember, you know, leaving university and going to London and writing a couple of first chapters of a novel. And of course, it never went anywhere because I didn't know what I was doing really. It was only when I sort of started the Faber course that I learned, you know, how to kind of take my work from, 400-word articles I was used to doing, and spreading out and actually creating a novel as opposed to writing a couple of chapters here and there. But yeah, it's something I'd always wanted to do. And I didn't really think about it. I kind of got carried away in journalism. I worked in OK in London, which was absolutely fantastic. I loved it. I didn't think about writing a book then because I was just having the best time at work. And then I moved to Sydney. I ended up having my 3 children. And it was when my youngest was 1 that I was freelancing, and I was writing a story for, I wrote a story for the Mossman Daily, and the then editor sent me an email saying, I love this story. Have you ever thought about writing a novel? And that was when the seed was kind of sown. And I thought, gosh, actually, yes, I have. But I've never actually done it. I've always been, never really properly given it a whirl. And the same editor then commissioned me to interview Jacqueline Moriarty, and Jacqueline recommended the course that I ultimately ended up doing. So yeah, it was almost like everything aligned, the stars all aligned, and I was, and I was kind of pushed towards doing Faber. And it was, obviously I don't think I would have written the book. Well, I know I wouldn't have written the book if I hadn't have learnt the craft on, on that course. So.
And could you tell us about some of the research you did for your book?
Yeah, so all the swinging stuff was done on trusty Google. Yeah. I didn't go to any clubs or jump into anyone's hot tub. Yeah, I definitely stayed swinging free. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I did stay swinging free. But I did a lot of research on Google for that. But the bit that I did seek, real sort of help with was the end of the book when there's a fatality, and I won't say who it is and what happens, but I did see a Northern Beaches detective for that, and I sat down with her for a whole afternoon and went through, ins and outs of crime scenes, and what happens in certain situations when someone's deceased, and when a coroner's required and stuff like that. So, and silly questions like, what colour's police tape? And, all these things I was asking her, but that was absolutely fascinating, and it's a brilliant way to spend an afternoon. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, I definitely needed sort of help with that. Everything else, all the other characters were, products of my imagination. And, I called on what I knew from my own primary school. I mean, not necessarily the swinging, but the types of people and the kind of, the trivia night itself. We all have them. Everyone has a trivia night in Australia, don't we, at primary schools, and they're always a good laugh. And so that really had to be my setting. So that kind of thing was, was purely from experience. Yeah. But it wasn't based on anyone in particular. No, none of the characters were based on anyone.
And Kelly wonders if you chose the title.
It was originally called Swing. The book was called Swing, and then it was changed to The Trivia Night. I think shortly after I got the publishing deal, and I actually really loved the change. I really felt like it suited the story, and it just gave a bit of drama, and immediately people were saying, oh, I love that name. What's going to happen on the Trivia Night? And, it was quite a teaser. So yeah, I love the name we ended up with, but yeah, it was originally Swing.
Yeah, okay. And Kelly also wonders who your favourite author is that's inspired your writing journey.
Oh my goodness, I have so many favourite authors. I guess going a long way back would be Agatha Christie, because I grew up when my dad had a whole shelf of Agatha Christie novels, and I still love Agatha Christie. So she kind of, really early on, that was what cemented my love of thrillers, I suppose, and murder stories and things like that. And then as a teen, I loved, one of my favourite book is Rebecca, and I remember reading that as a teenager and just thinking, oh my goodness, that's amazing. And now obviously domestic noir is such a popular genre, and that is the original domestic noir, that book. Books that I read now, authors that I love, Sally Hepworth, who provided a blurb quote for the front of the Tribune Note. See it up there. I love reading Sally's books. I think she's amazing. Liane Moriarty, I love. Petronella McGovern, Anna Downs, so many good Australian, Polly Phillips, so many good Australian writers that, and I think every book you read influences you in some respect. You pick something up, or you love a writing style, or, I just think, every book you read inspires you.
Yeah. I wonder if there might be something you've read lately that you'd like to recommend to us.
I really loved The Little Wartime Library,
Okay.
Kate Thompson,
Mm,
which is I absolutely loved. A beautiful story set in World War II in Brixton in London. The library is destroyed by a bomb, and the library goes underground onto the tunnels of the tube, and that is a beautiful, heartwarming story.
mm.
I loved My Best Friend's Murder by Polly
Oh,
Phillips, which
yes,
was
yeah.
just a real. Have you read that one?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a good
a
one.
real sort of great thriller that kind
Mm,
of really focuses on the nuances of friendship and rivalry, and I really enjoyed that. Anna Dow's The Shadow House I loved
yeah,
as
that's
well,
another good
because
one.
it was so eerie.
Mm,
Vanessa McCausland's books I love because they're just sort of whimsical
mm,
Australian mysteries, and The Beautiful Words was her latest one, which was gorgeous.
mm,
So many fantastic Australian writers that it's hard to pick a single book. But I'm
yeah.
reading Tony Jordan's Dinner with the Schnabels at the moment,
Oh,
which
okay,
I'm really
yeah.
enjoying. Only like a couple of chapters in, but it's really good.
Mm, mm. Well, thanks for those recommendations. Just wondering, are you working on something new at the moment?
Yeah, so my second book is The Running Club, and that is out next year. And that focuses on a kind of white picket community that's not unlike Darley Heights, where the trivia night
Mm,
is set. It's called Esperance, and it focuses on a group of people who belong to this elite running club, and they're all very, very on the surface, everything is very perfect, and they do their runs, and they're all clad in their lycra, and they're, with their Fitbits, and everything's perfect. But really, there's a lot of tension simmering under the surface, and a lot of them are historical tensions. They have very intertwined pasts that
oh,
kind of
yes.
you begin to learn about as the book progresses. So that is, I've just finished my second edits for that and sent
Mm,
those back to my publisher in the UK. So yeah, that's out next year, and I've actually written a first draft of a third.
oh, okay. Mm,
Yeah, I'm keeping fingers crossed that goes somewhere too.
yeah. No, that sounds great. I love the trivia night, so I'll be looking forward to reading more of your books.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Thanks.
And can you tell us what you hope readers will love about the trivia night?
Well, one of the things that was really important to me when I was writing it was the humor.
Mm,
I just wanted, I kind of felt like I wanted to write a suburban noir novel. I wanted to have a twist. I wanted to make it a bit twisty and turny and take people on a bit of a sort of fast paced journey. But I also really wanted to make people laugh. Like I felt like if you have a situation like parents at a trivia night swinging,
mm,
it would be such a lost opportunity if there wasn't, if I didn't try and put some humor in it. And that was just really, a biggie for me. And that really happened in the editing stage. So that was really when I fleshed out the book, the skeleton of the book. I tried to kind of inject the humor, so the banter that goes on between couples at the trivia night and some of the banter that goes on between the women in the second half of the book. And I just wanted to have a bit of fun with it and lighten it, and just,
mm,
so that people will go, okay, yes, can be a bit dark in parts, but in other parts it's quite funny. And I've had feedback, which has been really lovely to see, but that it has, some people have found it does hit the mark in terms of the humor, and that was really important. That's what I set out to do. And
mm,
I also really wanted to take this idea of, maybe there is a bit of rivalry sometimes at the school gates, but at the end of the day, when women get together to solve a problem, they're pretty unbreakable. And this idea of women supporting women, and it actually, even though the odds might be stacked against them at the start or at various points in the book, that these women come together and they help each other out. And that was, I've got some very close girlfriends, and, female friendship's really important to me. So
yeah,
that was, a really big point that I wanted to get across. So hopefully I've done that.
yeah, yeah. And when you started writing your book, did you know how it was going to end?
No, I'm the most terrible pantser, I have to say. I had no idea. So I had an idea of how the first half would go, or the first third would go. So I had an idea that, this group of parents, one of them would be new to the school and quite insecure and trying to make her mark. One of them would be, there might be a couple on the swinging scene. One of them was going to be quite uptight. I had this idea about this group coming together. and I had an idea that they would swing in some capacity, and it had to be trivia night, really, because that's the only night in the school calendar, really, that we all consistently have in every primary school here.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had that, and I had up to the point it happened, but really until, you know, that was written, I didn't know who was going to end up with who. I didn't know. Well, I had an idea, but I didn't know what was going to happen with Victoria. I didn't know how that storyline was going to unfold. And it just kind of, it just did. It just sort of slowly did as the book went along. And there were times when I kind of had to yank out 40,000 words or 10,000 words because I was thinking, oh gosh, this actually isn't working and I'm going down a complete rabbit hole here. You know, and I'd start again and I'd rewind and I'd take out that chunk and I think, right, I'm just going to start from here again. And I'd go back. But yeah, no, it kind of fell into, you know, all the pieces fell into place towards the end. And in the editing stage, all the smaller stories, like the story of the dog and, you know, little kind of subplots all kind of came in, and the humour and all of that kind of came in towards the latter stages. So, but with my second book, I tried to have a bit more of a clear idea, just so that I wouldn't have, you know, this horrendous panic halfway through thinking, oh my goodness, I've got half a book and I don't know what to do with the rest. So I had tried to be a bit more clever about it. But you know, and I do think though that I'm just one of these people that's not particularly logical with post-it notes and cards, and I can't really fit things together very well in my head, so I have to just kind of sit there and just try and bash it out. And I remember hearing Michael Robotham talking at the Sydney Writers' Festival, and he said, he kind of gave me permission to be a pantser because he's a pantser. And he kind of said, you know, no, you know, if you just write as you go, basically, because then if you know what's going to happen, so will the reader. But if you don't know what's going to happen and you surprise yourself, you're going to surprise your reader along the way as well. And I just remember thinking that's one of the best pieces of advice I could possibly have. And, you know, it kind of gave me permission to go away and carry on, you know, pantsing basically, which is what I do. I wish I could plan, but unfortunately it just doesn't seem to work for me generally in life.
Yeah. And what would you say has been your favourite part of your publishing journey so far?
Oh wow. Well, seeing the book on the shelves is quite unbeatable. I remember on the first day that the book came out, so 22nd of February, and I went into the stores with my family, and it's almost like a bit of a daze now. My kids were saying, "Mommy, look, it's your book," and picking them up on the shelves, and I was just like, "Oh my goodness, this is really strange. Am I actually dreaming this?" So that's been pretty special, and it's been really amazing getting feedback from people. I had a grief counsellor on the Northern Beaches contact me and say, you know, I just was so thrilled by the way that you covered grief, because she'd lost someone close to her as well, and she said it was just so, it really rang true with her. And that just get that email, I went and showed my husband, and I just said, look at this, you know, this, and you kind of think, gosh, this is why you do it, you know. And this is what you hope when you do it, is that something resonates with somebody. You know, and I've had a lot of great feedback, and that is just, you know, such a thrill. So yeah, and also in terms of the actual writing, the editing stage was really fun for me. I really liked going in and putting in all those little subplots, like the dog and the Melbourne Cup Day, and you know, all the historical stuff. That was really enjoyable. But in terms of, you know, the aftermath of the book deal, then yeah, definitely seeing your book up there and on a shelf next to another writer that you love or admire is pretty cool.
Yeah. And has it been published in a few countries?
So it's the UK and Australia at the moment. So it's in hardback in the UK. It's available on Kindle in the US. So it's Kindle, Audible, and Audible. Paperback and hardback in Australia and the UK respectively.
And I'm always interested to see, is it the same cover in all the countries, or have you had different?
Well, you can see this is my hardback.
Oh yes.
So a little different on the back with the bump inside.
Yeah.
And this is my Aussie cover.
Okay.
With my lovely quote from Sally, which I'm so thrilled with.
Yeah.
She's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so it's like.
So this is the one you see in Australia.
Yeah. And If is there any advice that you could give to someone who's just starting out on their writing journey?
Oh gosh, well, I would probably say that if you're brand new to writing, if it's, well, I wasn't new to writing, I was a journalist and I still needed to do a course. So I say, perhaps look into doing a course. They don't always have to be the sort of 6 months courses that I did. You can do 6-week courses, you can do week-long courses. With various publishers, and that's always a good idea, even if it's just to test whether it's what you really want to do, and just to get the basics to go away with and kind of furnish yourself with. But I'd say to anyone who is sort of sitting down right now to write a novel, that probably my best advice would be just to write it, just to write the skeleton of it. And I found that really hard. And that was the advice we were given on Faber. And I found it really hard because I felt, I'd write a chapter and then I kind of think, oh, that was terrible. I just want to go back and tweak that. And the first sentence of the novel is absolutely awful. I'm just going to rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it. And then you suddenly, once you do get to the end, you realize that probably that's all going to change anyway. Certainly for me, it did. I think I lost the first 2 chapters in the end and started on chapter 3. So, writing to the end without, and resisting the temptation to go back and tweak and write and rewrite is probably my best advice. Then you have a skeleton with which to work with, and then you can go back to the beginning and go, oh, actually, maybe I shouldn't have started it like that. I can rework it. So that would probably be my best advice. And also, stick at it, because it isn't easy. It's not, no one writes a novel and just thinks, okay, the end, ta-da, off it goes. There's your publishing deal. Like, it does take a lot of work, and but it is worth it. And someone's got to get a publishing deal, right? So why shouldn't it be you?
And Belinda wonders how you chose your characters' names.
Oh gosh, I can't even tell you. I think, oh god, I do not know. I think Amanda I had right from the start of Faber, and it just stuck with me. It was just always going to be Amanda. And then I think Zoe and Alice just maybe came to me along the line somewhere, and they just seemed like the right ones, the right fit for those people. And goodness knows where Phoebe came from. And yeah, like I said, they're not based on anyone. They were just names I picked out, and I felt that kind of suited the personalities of the characters, if that is, even a thing, if that makes sense.
And do you have a favourite writing snack or drink?
Oh, coffee.
Coffee, yeah.
So on my kind of day is, my writing day will be Monday to Wednesday, because I've got a little 4-year-old, and my bigger kids are 10 and 9, and they're at school. So I will usually drop my big kids to school, my son at preschool, and then on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I will race up to the cafe down the road, and I will get myself a large flat white, and I will sit and drink that while I kind of, probably answer a few emails, and then once it's kicked in, I'll start writing. But yeah, but I'm a terrible snacker. I'll always have something on the desk, or usually just the kids' lunchbox things. I'll go and grab something if I'm in the middle of writing and I'm, don't have time to make anything too substantial. I'll just go and grab something and snack. I'm a terrible snacker. But yeah, anything to get me through the writing.
And a favourite place to write?
My favourite place to write. I actually randomly wrote quite a lot of the trivia night in Fiji. We went before all the lockdowns. We went on a family holiday for 10 days to Fiji, and I sat and wrote a lot of my chapters there. And I have to say, that's pretty unbeatable, sitting by on a sun lounger with your laptop and basically the swim up bar in front of you and the pool, and the kids are running past. And yeah, that was pretty nice. But usually I'm just in this is my office behind me, and I just sit here at my computer, the monitor, and I just do most of it here. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for chatting with me.
Thank you.
Looking forward to reading more of your books. Just wondering, do you want to let people know how they can keep in touch with you?
Yes, so I'm on Instagram. I'm at Ali_Lowe_writer, and my website's www.alilowewriter.com, and I'm on Facebook. I think I'm Ali Lowe Writer on Facebook as well. So yeah, I'm on social media. I'm not a very good Twitterer, although I'm on it, but I don't really understand it, to be honest. It's that logical part of my brain that I explained doesn't work very well. But yeah, no, I'm on Instagram mainly and Facebook.
Yeah, well, thanks so much, and thanks to those who asked some questions.
Oh, thank you so much, Jackie.
Thank you. Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye.